Luna found herself reborn at the age of 27, with a son and a daughter, married to the world's richest man. Tyler, who consistently topped the Forbes list, was voted the most desirable bachelor No. 1 by Time magazine. And even the British royal family wanted to marry their princess to him. Everyone said she was blessed. But the first thing she did was take divorce papers to his first love. She pushed the agreement in front of Judith and calmly said, "I want a divorce. Tyler is yours. And the 2 children are yours too." Judith stared at her in shock, unable to believe that the person who had occupied the position of Mrs. Walker for 6 years would suddenly step down voluntarily. Luna simply added calmly, "Since they all prefer you, I'll step aside, just have Tyler sign the papers, and once the divorce cooling-off period is over, I'll leave." This time, she refused to repeat the same mistakes, to remain the Mrs. Walker overlooked by everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Judith unconsciously traced the rim of her cup with her fingertips, her brow furrowed. "Luna, what kind of game are you playing?" Luna looked at Judith's ever-changing expression and calmly repeated, "I'm not playing games, I've just had enough." "Luna, do you know how many women out there would kill to be in your position?" "I do." Luna met her gaze directly, "So I'm giving it to you." Judith's expression finally cracked. She stared at the agreement for a long time before finally choosing to take it. "All right, since you're being so generous, I won't stand on ceremony. But remember, once something is in my hands, I'll never let it go." "Don't worry," Luna smiled. "I definitely won't regret it." After all, in her previous life, she had already tasted the bitterness of loneliness. Judith stood up and moved to another table in the cafe, then gracefully picked up her phone. Her fingertips lightly tapping the screen a few times. When the call connected, her voice instantly softened. "Tyler, I'm at Blue Mountain Cafe. Can you come pick me up?" Luna sat nearby, a bitter smile tugging at the corner of her lips. There was a time when she called Tyler, and 9 out of 10 times his assistant would answer. And now, in less than 20 minutes, the man who was always in a meeting appeared at the cafe entrance, through the glass window. Luna saw Tyler stride into the cafe with his long legs, his tailored black suit accentuating his broad shoulders and narrow waist. Their 6-year-old son Luke and 4-year-old daughter Joy rushed toward Judith the moment they saw her, showering her with hugs and kisses. "Aunt Judith," Joy called out sweetly, her little face nuzzling against Judith's chest. Tyler placed the cake box on the table, his slender fingers gently pushing it forward. "Matcha flavor, just how you like it. I specifically asked the chef to go easy on the sugar." Judith's eyes lit up. "You still remember so well." Luna sat in the corner, her fingers unconsciously digging into her palms. After 6 years of marriage, Tyler still didn't know her favorite flavor. In her previous life, when she was hospitalized due to illness and craved strawberry cake, he casually had his assistant buy one, only for it to be mango-flavored, which she was allergic to. "What would you like for dinner tonight?" Tyler asked in a deep voice. "French cuisine or Chinese?" Judith smiled faintly, pulling out the divorce agreement from her bag. "Before that, there's a document I'd like you to look at." She flipped the agreement to the signature page. "I've taken a liking to a villa, but I'm short on liquid funds. Could you?" Tyler took the pen and signed without even looking at the contents. "Between you and me, why bother being so formal?" "Aunt Judith, are you buying a new house?" Luke asked, tilting his little face up. "Dad, buy one next to hers. My sister and I want to move in with Aunt Judith. We don't want to stay with Mom every day." Tyler frowned slightly, but seeing the hopeful looks in the children's eyes, he relented. "Fine, we'll buy one." "No need for all that trouble," Judith quickly said. "I'll reserve 3 rooms for Luke and Joy, and you can come stay whenever you miss me." The 2 children cheered with joy. Joy even hugged Judith around the neck and gave her a kiss. "Judith, Auntie is the best, 1,000 times better than Mom." Luna's heart felt as if it were being tightly squeezed by an invisible hand, so sour and heavy that she could barely breathe. She saw Tyler's lips curve into a slight smile, a tenderness he had never shown her. Unable to bear it any longer, she picked up her bag and turned to leave. The moment she stepped out the door, memories from her past life flooded in like a tidal wave. In her previous life, she had Tyler in a marriage of convenience, bearing a son and a daughter, living to 62 years old, yet never experiencing true happiness. All because Tyler's heart had always belonged to his first love from youth, Judith. Back then, after they broke up, Judith went abroad, and Tyler drowned his sorrows in alcohol for days. But proud as he was, he never humbled himself to win her back. instead turning around and agreeing to the arranged marriage his family proposed. Tyler was the dream of her youth, as noble as a deity, which socialite among the upper class didn't fantasize about marrying the Walker family's patriarch. So when she learned of the impending alliance between the two families, she was overjoyed, but after marriage, she poured all her love into it, only to receive Tyler's perpetual distance and indifference in return. Until Judith returned to the country, he didn't mention divorce to Luna, nor did his gaze ever leave Judith, even more terrifying. Both children also grew fond of Judith and gradually distanced themselves from her. In her later years, Luna was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and Tyler abandoned her alone in the old house under the pretext of rest and recuperation. On her birthday, she tremblingly called her husband and children, only to learn they were accompanying Judith on a vacation in the Maldives. She wanted to cook herself a bowl of longevity noodles, but her confused memory made her forget to turn off the stove. As the flames consumed her, Luna's final thought was of Tyler's icy gaze when he slipped the wedding ring onto her finger. Closing her eyes in agony, her only wish was that if there was a next life, she would never again sacrifice her entire existence for him. When Luna returned to the villa, night had already fallen. She didn't rest, instead immediately began clearing out the items, Tyler's dress shirts, the children's toys, family portraits. One by one, she threw them all into cardboard boxes. "What are you doing?" Tyler's voice suddenly sounded behind her. Luna turned to see him standing at the doorway holding their two children. His brow furrowed. "Mom, why are you throwing away our things?" Joy ran over and saw her teddy bear being packed into a box. Her little face flushed with anger. Luke also glared at her angrily. "We just went to play with Aunt Judith for a while. Is it worth getting so mad about?" Tyler looked at her, his gaze as cold as ever. "The kids enjoy being with Judith. Is it worth throwing a tantrum over such a small thing?" "I'm not angry," Luna said calmly. "Liar," Joy shrieked. "You're just jealous of Aunt Judith. That's why you threw away my teddy bear. You're a bad mom. When I grow up, I'm moving in with Aunt Judith," Luke said viciously, clutching his sister's hand, "and I'll never come back to see you." Tyler didn't stop the children's commotion, merely furrowing his brow slightly as his deep eyes swept coolly over Luna. His gaze was like looking at an unreasonable stranger. "Enough." His thin lips parted, the deep voice carrying an innate nobility as long fingers absently adjusted his cufflinks. "There's still a board video conference. Throw away whatever you want, just don't make a scene." The moment the door closed, Luna's tears finally fell. Her heart felt as if it had been torn to pieces, every breath carrying the taste of blood. She wiped away her tears, looked at the mess around her, and suddenly laughed. Don't worry, she wouldn't disturb him. "For the rest of my life, I won't do it again." After signing the divorce agreement, Luna stopped taking care of household chores. She no longer woke up at 5 a.m. to prepare nutritious breakfasts for the children, nor waited late at night for Tyler to return from social events to make him hangover soup. All the household chores she once considered her duty were now left to the servants. At first, no one noticed anything unusual, until Luke was scolded by the teacher for being late to school. Joy couldn't find her homework notebook. Tyler's pocket watch stopped ticking. The servants were in a flurry but could never meet the mistress's standards. The kitchen was piled with unwashed dishes. The living room was strewn with children's toys, and the ironed shirts were never quite smooth enough. This once well-organized home gradually descended into chaos. Tyler pushed open the bedroom door to find Luna leaning by the window, reading a book. Sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains, casting dappled shadows on her. "How long are you going to keep this up?" He stood at the doorway, his voice low. Luna closed the book and looked up at him. "I'm not making a fuss." "Then why are you ignoring family matters?" He took a few steps closer, the faint scent of ambergris lingering in the air. "Are you still upset about what happened last time?" "I'm not upset." She set the book aside. "I just don't want to deal with it anymore." Tyler narrowed his eyes, his slender fingers lightly tapping the desk. "Reason, I'm tired," she said calmly. "There are servants at home. I don't have to do it." She remembered in her previous life, waking up before dawn every day. Tyler's coffee had to be 85 degrees, the sandwiches toasted golden and crispy, the children's clothes had to be hand-washed, even the socks ironed smooth. But what did she get in return? It was Tyler's tenderness towards Judith, the children's closeness to Aunt Judith, and her lonely death on her 62nd birthday. "Luna," his voice turned cold, "if you're throwing a tantrum, just say so, don't act like a 3-year-old. She tugged at the corner of her lips. "I'm not throwing a tantrum, I just want to rest." Before the words had even finished, The door was flung open violently. Luke and Joy rushed in, their little faces filled with anger. "Mom is too lazy," Joy shrieked. "We want Judith to take care of us." Luke also chimed in. "Judith is kinder, more hardworking, and a million times better than you." Tyler's gaze remained fixed on Luna's face, as if waiting for her to yield, but she just took a deep breath and said softly, "If you think she's good, then bring her here. I have no objections." The air froze instantly. Tyler's expression darkened completely. "Are you sure?" Luna took a deep breath. "Absolutely certain, Dad. Hurry up." Joy eagerly tugged at Tyler's sleeve. "I want Aunt Judith to come right now. With Aunt Judith here, we don't need you anymore." Luke stuck his tongue out at Luna. "Go away, leave this house." Tyler cast one last glance at Luna, seeing her remain unmoved, then turned and strode away with the children. Luna stood still, listening to the fading sound of the car engine, and gently closed her eyes. Soon, she would be as they wished, leaving them completely, leaving this home. Judith, on the first day she moved in, she directed the servants to rearrange the living room. "This sofa set is too dreary." Her slender fingers lightly brushed over the leather sofa as she turned to Tyler with a gentle smile. "Tyler, shall we switch to a beige one?" Tyler didn't even blink, directly instructing the butler, "Do as Mrs. Judith says." Luna stood at the corner of the stairs, watching the workers carry out the sofa she had carefully selected half a year ago. Luke and Joy followed behind Judith like two little tails, excitedly pointing and saying, "Judith auntie, this throw pillow needs to be replaced too. The one Mom bought is so ugly." Judith gently patted their heads. "All right, we'll replace them all." Luna's fingers tightened slightly, then quickly relaxed. Those pillows were stitched by her own hands during her pregnancy, filled with hypoallergenic down cotton, all because they had sensitive skin as children. Now, they were mercilessly thrown into the trash bin. In the following days, this home grew increasingly unfamiliar. At the dining table, Judith sat in the seat that originally belonged to Luna, gently serving food to the two children. Tyler would occasionally pour her a cup of coffee himself, his slender fingers pushing it gently toward her, his eyes carrying a softness Luna had never received. In the evening, the living room lights would dim, and the four of them would squeeze onto the sofa to watch a movie. Joy curled up in Judith's arms. Luke leaned against Tyler's shoulder, and laughter could be heard continuously. Luna passed by, and they didn't even glance at her, as if she were just a ghost. What's even more ridiculous is that once upon a time, Tyler, Luke, and Joy were so absurdly particular about their quality of life. But now, she watched as Judith casually tossed his $1 million Patek Philippe onto the coffee table, face down, and he lovingly put it on. Watched as the children happily went to school in their uniforms that Judith had just thrown into the washing machine, the collars still stained with yesterday's sauce. Watched as Judith poured takeout into plates and claimed she'd cooked it herself, yet no one called her out. What's even more ridiculous is that they've practically put Judith on a pedestal. "Judith, don't you dare touch these menial tasks." Tyler stopped Judith as she reached for the tea set, his slender fingers gently pressing her wrist. "Your hands are meant for playing the piano." "Judith, let me carry your bag." Luke eagerly took Judith's limited edition handbag, displaying an obsequiousness Luna had never seen on her own son's face. "Miss Judith only needs to rest properly." The butler respectfully presented Italian handmade slippers. "Leave everything else to us." How ironic, she had worked as a nanny in this household for 6 years, yet they turned a blind eye to her. Yet Judith became the princess everyone doted on the moment she arrived. The servants gossiped about it even more in private. "The master is so good to Miss Judith. I've never seen him treat his wife like this." The two children are also attached to her. "I think this household will have a new mistress sooner or later." Luna had long been heartbroken, paying no attention to anything, silently packing her belongings, until that afternoon, when her phone suddenly started vibrating incessantly. "Madam, the young master and young lady had an allergic reaction at school. The ambulance just took them to the hospital." Luna arrived at the hospital to find both children already wheeled into the emergency room. Tyler stood in the corridor, his suit jacket casually draped over his arm, his tie loosely hanging around his neck, his eyes burning with icy fury. "Luna," his voice was low, simmering with suppressed anger. "What exactly have you been doing?" Luna froze. "What? They're allergic to mangoes. Didn't you know?" Tyler took a step closer, his tall figure looming over her. "Why did you let them drink mango juice?" "It wasn't me." Luna met his gaze directly. "I never buy mangoes for the house." Ever since the children were hospitalized after their first encounter with mangoes, She had been extremely cautious, repeatedly reminding everyone not to give the children mangoes. She even personally reviewed the school cafeteria's menu. How could she possibly make such a basic mistake? Not you, Tyler sneered. Then who? The servants. Or did they have a death wish? Luna opened her mouth to speak, but the nurse pushed the door open and announced, "The child is awake." In the hospital room, Luke and Joy lay pale on their beds, their eyes flickering as they saw them enter. What happened? Tyler asked in a low voice. The two children exchanged glances, then suddenly pointed at Luna simultaneously. It's Mom. The pastries she bought earlier had mango in them. Luna froze, looking at them in disbelief. What did you say? It was Mom, Joy cried out tearfully. She knew we were allergic but still gave them to us on purpose. Luke nodded vigorously too. That's just so mean. Luna's fingers clenched the doorframe tightly, her knuckles turning white. Luke, Joy, do you realize what you're saying? You'd better tell the truth right now. Enough. Tyler suddenly stood up, gripping her wrist with such force it seemed he might crush the bones. Luna, is this how you act as a mother? Not only harming them but also forcing them to lie. I didn't. Luna's voice trembled slightly. Are you trying to say they're framing you? He sneered. How old are they? If you can't even take responsibility for this, do you deserve to be called a mother? The two children suddenly burst into tears. Tyler immediately let go of her and turned to comfort them, but they cried even harder, their little faces turning bright red. Daddy, Joy sobbed. We feel so awful. How can we make it better? Tyler whispered, gently wiping her tears with his fingers. Luke glared with reddened eyes at Luna. She's allergic to mangoes too. Make her drink mango juice. She should suffer just the same. Luna felt a chill run through her heart. She looked at Tyler, the chill in his eyes sending a shiver down her spine. Okay, he straightened up, snapped his fingers, and two bodyguards immediately pushed the door open and entered. Hold her down. Luna hadn't even processed what was happening before she was forced into the chair. The bodyguard pinched her chin, forcing her mouth open. A liter of mango juice was poured in, the sickly sweet liquid choking her windpipe as she coughed violently. Her throat burning with pain, rashes visibly spread across her skin, her face began to swell, and breathing grew increasingly difficult, clawing at her neck in agony. Her vision blurred as she looked toward Tyler. He stood there, watching coldly. With no intention of stopping at all, the two children had stopped crying and were clapping their hands excitedly. Serves her right, she deserves to suffer too. Before the darkness engulfed her, Luna saw Tyler's icy gaze for the last time. After what felt like an eternity, Luna woke up in a hospital bed, her throat burned with pain, and her face still bore the red rash of an allergic reaction. A familiar voice came from outside the hospital room. It was Judith. Tyler. I really didn't know they were allergic. I just wanted to make them some juice. It's not your fault, Tyler said with an impossibly gentle voice. You didn't know. If only I had come forward with the truth earlier, you wouldn't have misunderstood Miss Luna. Her tone grew helpless as she spoke. Luke, Joy, you too, it's all my fault. How could you shift all the blame onto your mother just to protect me? The pitiful voices of the two children came through clearly. Judith. We know we were wrong, Joy sniffled. We just don't like Mom. Yeah, Luke chimed in. She's always controlling us. No snacks, strict bedtimes. We just want her gone. Luna clutched the bedsheet with white-knuckled fingers. This was the child she carried for 10 months. Nearly dying on the operating table to bring into the world. She remembered the day Luke was born. The delivery room hallway stood empty. The nurse told her Tyler was tied up in an important meeting and couldn't get away. She was in excruciating pain, yet had to grit her teeth and endure it alone. Giving Joy birth was even more perilous. With a difficult labor and massive hemorrhage, doctors even issued a critical condition notice. Meanwhile, Tyler had flown abroad for a cross-border merger deal, yet now, the two children she risked her life to bring into the world have become the ones who hurt her the most. She was in excruciating pain, tears streaming uncontrollably. And it took her a while to recover after clutching her chest. Then, the phone suddenly rang. It was a call from the airline confirming her flight details. Mrs. Luna, your one-way ticket has been issued. Would you like us to select a seat for you? Window seat, please. Luna hastily wiped away her tears, her voice so faint it was almost inaudible. The phone call had just ended when the hospital room door was pushed open. Tyler walked in with steady steps, dressed in a crisp suit. Even his cuffs immaculately in place. Who were you talking to? He asked casually. Luna placed her phone aside. A friend. Tyler didn't press further, just stood by the bed looking down at her. Last time was a mistake. It was Judith who gave them the mango juice. His tone was as calm as if discussing the weather. But she didn't know, so let's just let it go. Luna's heart felt as if gripped by an invisible hand, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. When he thought it was her, he wanted to kill her, but when it was Judith, it became a casually dismissed she didn't know. She opened her mouth, wanting to question, to scream, to vent all the grievances and resentment pent up inside her, yet when the words reached her lips, all that remained was a barely audible as if drained of all strength. She was exhausted, too weary to even desire an argument. All those grievances that once kept her tossing and turning, all the accumulated resentment from days and nights, now transformed into a self-mocking bitter smile at the corner of her lips. The difference between love and not loving is just this simple. Tyler seemed slightly surprised by her reaction, paused, then added, "The kids are going to summer camp next week, and Judith and I will accompany them. You can go back by yourself." He waited for her to beg or cry as usual, but Luna just nodded calmly. "I understand." Tyler frowned, feeling her reaction was unusual, but his phone rang at that moment. He glanced at the caller ID. Something came up at work. "I have to go." After the door closed, Luna finally unclenched her tightly gripped fist, revealing 4 crescent-shaped blood marks on her palm. These past few days, Luna's phone began to vibrate repeatedly. All were Judith's messages, a series of photos and videos, capturing the joyful moments of summer camp. In the video, Luke and Joy proudly introduced Judith to their classmates. "This is our mom." The classmates' exclamations of admiration came one after another. "Wow, your mom is so beautiful. With a handsome dad and a beautiful mom, you're so lucky." "Then who usually picks you up from school?" a child asked curiously. On the screen, Luke and Joy's expressions froze for a moment. "Oh, that was our nanny who took care of us." Luna's hand trembled, and the water glass in her hand fell to the ground. She slowly crouched down, looked at the fragments on the floor, and suddenly laughed. So all these years, she had just been a free nanny, but it doesn't matter. She'll soon be stepping down as their nanny. From now on, let their beloved mother take care of them. A week later, the butler brought Luke and Joy back to the villa. The moment the 2 children entered, they rushed straight to the kitchen, unable to hide the smugness on their faces. "Mom!" Joy shouted in a shrill voice. "Did you know, Auntie Judith sprained her ankle at the parent-child sports day, and Dad was so heartbroken?" Luke eagerly added, "Dad booked the entire hospital to treat Auntie Judith, even cancelled his company meetings to stay by her side the whole time." Luna stood in front of the oven, quietly listening to the children's bragging, her fingers steadily slipping on oven mitts. Are you even listening?" Joy stamped her foot in frustration. "Dad treats Auntie Judith so much better than he treats you." The oven's ding interrupted her incessant chatter. A sweet aroma instantly filled the entire kitchen. The 2 children's eyes lit up, and they immediately gathered around. "It's cake." Luke stood on tiptoe. "I want some." Luna took out the baking tray. The edges of the cake were slightly burnt. She frowned and directly poured it into the trash bin. "Ah!" Joy screamed. "Why did you throw it away? It's burnt, inedible." Luna said calmly, "You're lying." Luke kicked the trash bin angrily. "You did it on purpose. You're still mad about last time and don't want to share with us. Bad mom." Joy's little face flushed crimson. "We don't have a mother like you." Luna removed her oven mitts. Feeling as if an invisible hand had clenched her heart, she looked at these 2 children she had risked her life to bring into the world, suddenly finding them utterly unfamiliar. "Just as well," she said softly. "I don't have children like you either. From now on, go find Judith." With that, she turned and walked toward the stairs. Behind her came the hysterical screams of 2 children. "We hate you. We'll always hate you." Luna paused mid-step but didn't look back. Just as she stepped onto the 3rd stair, her back was suddenly shoved violently. Die. In a dizzying whirl, her body tumbled heavily down the stairs. Excruciating pain instantly swept through her entire body, and warm liquid trickled down her forehead, blurring her vision. 2 children stood at the top of the stairs, their faces twisted with malicious grins. "Serves you right." Joy clapped her hands. "That's what you get for not giving us cake." Luke made a face. Luna struggled to push herself up, blood dripping from her chin onto the floor. She looked at these 2 little devils before her, unable to connect them with the children she had fought so desperately to give birth to when she was on the verge of death in the delivery room. The door suddenly swung open. "What's going on?" Tyler's deep voice sounded, followed by Judith. Seeing this scene, all 3 of them froze. "Daddy." The 2 children immediately changed their expressions, crying as they rushed over. "Mommy threw away the cake and wouldn't let us eat it. And she said she doesn't want us anymore. Woo-woo." Tyler's gaze fell on the cake in the trash, then shifted to the blood-covered Luna. His brow furrowed tightly. Luna, why must you take it out on two children? His voice was as cold as ice. How can you call yourself a mother when you say such things to your own flesh and blood? Luna leaned against the wall and slowly stood up, her collar stained red with blood. She looked at Tyler and suddenly smiled. When have I ever been worthy in your eyes? Her voice was hoarse. Haven't you always just treated me as a tool for carrying on the family line? Tyler's pupils slightly contracted. Since the wife you want is Judith. Luna wiped the blood from her face. And both children only want her as their mother. Then I'll step aside and make way for your happy family of four. The air instantly froze. Tyler's expression turned extremely grim as he stared fixedly at Luna, as if truly seeing her for the first time. Luna, don't forget. His voice was low and icy. The two families' union was purely a marriage of alliance from the start, devoid of any affection. What do you want me to give you? Love, he sneered. Sorry, I can't offer that. Luna laughed at this, but as her laughter continued, tears began streaming down her face. Yes, he's right, she was foolish, she was stupid, to think she could drag a deity down from their altar. Tyler was indeed brought down once, but it wasn't by her. She should have known. Tyler, that's enough. Judith timely grabbed Tyler's arm. The children are terrified. Let's take them upstairs first. Tyler gave Luna a deep look before finally turning away, picking up a child in each arm, and leaving with Judith. Luna watched their retreating figures as blood continued to drip. She now regretted it immensely. Regretted marrying Tyler and regretted having those two children. In this lifetime, she would never repeat the same mistakes. From now on, she would live only for herself. 3 days later was Luca's birthday. The banquet was held at the most luxurious hotel in the city center. The crystal chandeliers refracted dazzling light, and the champagne tower shimmered brilliantly at the center of the banquet hall. Tyler had, as usual, reserved the entire floor to host a grand birthday celebration for Luke. Luna stood in the corner, watching as Luke and Joy each held one of Judith's hands, fluttering around her like two cheerful little birds. The children clung to Judith the entire time, deliberately leaving her, their biological mother, on the sidelines. Tyler stood not far away, his slender fingers holding a champagne glass, his gaze occasionally lingering on Judith with a tenderness she had never received. Tyler is truly devoted. After all these years, his eyes still only have Ms. Judith in them. Isn't that right? Their two children take after him. Their eyes are only for Judith. The guest's murmurs clearly reached Luna's ears. Mr. Tyler, Mrs. Judith, and I were university classmates. Back then, when Mr. Tyler doted on Mrs. Judith, it was nothing short of legendary. A man in a tailored suit whispered. He was just one step away from proposing before graduation. No wonder, the person beside them suddenly understood. The white moonlight will always be the white moonlight, even without the title of a wife. She remains the most important person. Some people, no matter how hard they scheme to marry into the family. Someone glanced disdainfully at Luna. What does it matter if they have children? They still can't win their husband's heart. I think she's destined to live a lonely life. Luna listened quietly, her heart encased in a thick layer of ice, heavy but no longer aching. She took a deep breath and turned toward the elevator. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, a hand suddenly reached in. Judith stepped in gracefully in her high heels, her red lips curling slightly. The 3-day cooling-off period for the divorce will be over soon. She looked straight into Luna's eyes. You'll keep your promise and leave, won't you? Luna pressed the button for the first floor. Of course. I want to leave as soon as possible, more than anyone else. Judith finally showed a satisfied smile. Don't worry, I'll take good care of this home for you. Anyway, Tyler and the kids don't like you. They'll forget about you gradually. The elevator descended slowly. Luna remained silent. Suddenly, boom. A loud bang echoed as the elevator jolted violently, plunging into complete darkness. Ah, Judith screamed, frantically pulling out her phone. Tyler, help, the elevator's malfunctioning. Luna slammed heavily against the wall. A sharp pain shooting through her forehead as warm liquid trickled down her cheek. It was impossible to tell how much time had passed when the sound of chaotic footsteps echoed from outside. Is everyone inside all right? The voice of a rescuer came through the elevator door. Help us quickly. Judith banged on the elevator door. My leg is stuck. The metallic screech of prying echoed harshly as a blinding shaft of light pierced through. The rescuer leaned in to assess the situation. His expression grave. Mr. Tyler, both young ladies' legs are trapped by the warped door. But time is critical. We can only save one now. Who should we prioritize? In Luna's blurred vision, she saw Tyler standing behind the rescuer with 2 children. His gaze fixed on Judith without hesitation. Save Judith. Save Aunt Judith first, Luke and Joy cried, tugging at the rescuer's sleeve. Hurry and save her. The rescuer frowned. Mr. Tyler, young Master Feng, Miss Feng. The other young lady is more severely injured. We still recommend saving her first. I said, save Judith. Tyler's voice was as cold as ice. The rescuer sighed and could only reach out to pull Judith. Luna watched as they carefully rescued Judith, while the elevator door, now half unsupported, emitted a terrifying creaking sound. Bang! The warped metal crashed heavily onto her leg, and excruciating pain instantly surged through her entire body. The last thing she saw was Tyler carrying Judith away, and the sight of the 2 children cheering with joy. Darkness completely swallowed her consciousness. Luna, when she opened her eyes again, the blinding white light made her instinctively squint. The smell of disinfectant filled her nostrils, accompanied by the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. Awake, the doctor approached to examine her pupils. 3 broken ribs. Lucky you got medical attention in time, or you wouldn't have made it. Luna stared blankly at the ceiling, the final scene before the elevator's fall replaying in her mind. Tyler didn't hesitate to save Judith. When the deformed elevator door came crashing down toward her, he didn't even glance back. She tried to move, and sharp pain immediately spread from her chest throughout her entire body, yet strangely, she couldn't shed a single tear. Perhaps the pain was so extreme that even her heart had gone numb. 3 days later, Tyler came to pick her up from the hospital. He stood at the hospital room door, impeccably dressed in a suit, his gaze fixed on her heavily bandaged chest. After a long silence, he finally spoke. Judith still needs to dance. I can't let anything happen to her legs. Luna slowly looked up at him. So, you'll have to bear the inconvenience, he said calmly, as if discussing the weather. You're a housewife. Even if you have mobility issues, it won't make much difference. Luna didn't respond. Only now seeing with such clarity the man she had loved for half her life. His features remained as exquisitely handsome as a deity's, yet in those eyes, there was never a trace of her reflection. Tyler, she said hoarsely, if I had died that day, would you have cared? Tyler furrowed his brows even deeper. Offering no reply, he pulled a black card from his suit's inner pocket and placed it on the nightstand. Don't ask such meaningless questions. This is compensation. As long as you behave yourself and raise the 2 children properly, you'll always be Mrs. Walker. Luna suddenly laughed. In her previous life, she bore the title of Mrs. Walker until her death. But so what? She was the one who died alone, the one forgotten, and the one consumed by flames. So, in this life, she couldn't care less about being his wife again. She wants to live better, more brilliantly. She wants to have someone who truly loves her. She could no longer hold back. Almost blurting out that she didn't want him anymore. Tyler, the phone ringtone suddenly interrupted her words. Tyler answered the phone. Judith's sweet voice came through the receiver. Tyler, the kids and I are waiting for you at the restaurant. We have a surprise for you. His expression instantly softened. Be right there. After hanging up, Tyler glanced at his watch, his tone turning cold again. I have to go out. The driver is waiting for you downstairs. His tall, straight figure turned to leave. Luna's fingers unconsciously dug into her palms, but in the end, she didn't speak up to stop him. Forget it. He would soon learn from Judith that the divorce agreement had taken effect. She no longer wanted him, nor the 2 children who treated her as a stranger. Auntie Annie. Luna pressed the call button. Please have my luggage sent to the airport. An hour later, she deleted all of Tyler's contact information and left the black card in the hospital room drawer. As the plane took off, the clouds outside the window were dyed a dazzling gold red by the setting sun. Luna gazed at the dazzling sky, then closed her eyes with a smile. In this lifetime, she would never compromise herself for anyone again. Let those days of humbling herself for love vanish forever into the clouds with this airplane. Ahead of her lay a brand new future, one that belonged solely to herself. Though the city was unfamiliar, it oddly gave her a sense of security. After carefully scouting for half a month, she opened an old bookstore on a quiet street in the historic district. The shop wasn't large, but it had excellent natural lighting. She spent 3 months renovating, transforming the originally shabby storefront into a cozy reading space. The rainy season is long. Luna stood by the glass door of the bookstore, staring blankly at the drizzling rain outside. The wind chime at the door suddenly rang with a crisp sound. Welcome. She instinctively turned around, but froze slightly upon seeing the visitor. The man standing at the door was tall and slender, holding a black long-handled umbrella, with rainwater dripping from its surface onto the floor. He held a little girl about 5 or 6 years old in his arms, her hair tied into 2 small braids as she timidly shrank into his embrace. "Do you have any picture books suitable for this age group?" The man closed his umbrella, his voice gentle. Luna finally got a clear look at his face, with sharp, well-defined features, eyebrows and eyes as if painted, a pair of gold-rimmed glasses resting on the bridge of his nose, and behind the lenses, eyes carrying a faint smile. She froze. "William Sr., the man clearly hesitated too, studying her carefully for a moment before suddenly realizing, Luna. Memories came flooding back. William, a prominent figure in the medical school, was 2 years her senior. During his time at the university, he was renowned as a talented individual, not only excelling academically but also playing the piano masterfully, making him the dream man of countless female students. What a coincidence, she smiled, pointing at the little girl in his arms. "This is my niece, Gina." William gently patted the little girl's back. "Gina, say hello to the sister." The little girl raised her head, revealing a delicate, doll-like face, and timidly called out, "Hello, sister." Her voice was as soft and sweet as cotton candy. Luna's heart instantly melted. She crouched down to Gina's eye level. "Hello there, Gina. What kind of book are you looking for? Would you like me to recommend something for you?" Gina blinked her big eyes, then suddenly reached out her small hand and gently touched Luna's cheek. "You're so pretty, just like my mom," she whispered. The air instantly froze. William's expression changed as he crouched down and held Gina tighter. "I'm sorry, her mother passed away from illness a few years ago." Luna felt a tightness in her chest. As she looked at the little girl who had lost her mother, she suddenly thought of Luke and Joy. They still had Judith, but this child had nothing. "It's okay," she said softly, reaching out to gently touzle Gina's hair. "Gina, do you like fairy tales? Big sister has lots of beautiful picture books here." Gina nodded, her eyes lighting up. For the next half hour, Luna patiently introduced Gina to various picture books. The little girl gradually relaxed, even taking the initiative to hold Luna's hand and asking her to tell a story. William stood nearby, watching the scene with gentle eyes. When Luna reached the part about the little prince, Gina was already leaning against her, completely engrossed. "You have a unique way of telling stories," William said softly at checkout. "Gina is usually very shy around strangers, but she's so comfortable with you." Luna smiled and handed the packaged picture book to Gina. "When I see Gina, I also feel a sense of familiarity. I wish Gina could be my daughter." As soon as the words left her mouth, she regretted it, but William only nodded thoughtfully and didn't ask further. "Can we come here often in the future?" As they were leaving, Gina suddenly tugged at Luna's sleeve and asked, looking up with her little face. Luna crouched down and gently pinched her little nose. "Of course, you're always welcome here, little one." William held an umbrella and carried Gina into the rain. Gina rested on his shoulder, waving toward the bookstore until they turned the corner and disappeared from view. Luna stood at the door, watching their figures fade into the curtain of rain, feeling a long-lost warmth in her heart. After that, William and Gina became regulars at the bookstore. They would come to the shop almost every weekend, staying for an hour or two. Gina would always sit quietly on the small sofa in the corner, completely absorbed in her picture book. William would choose a medical monograph and sit beside her, reading in silence. Sometimes, Luna would brew them a pot of floral tea. William would politely thank her each time. Gina would sweetly say thank you, Auntie, before burying her nose back in her book. On a sunny Saturday, William suggested taking Gina to the amusement park. "Come along with us." He adjusted his glasses and extended a sincere invitation. "Gina has been saying she wants to go with you." Luna initially wanted to refuse, but seeing Gina's hopeful gaze, her heart softened. The amusement park was bustling with noise and excitement. Gina held William's hand with her left and Luna's with her right. Running around excitedly, they rode the carousel, played bumper cars, and queued together for the Ferris wheel. When the Ferris wheel reached its highest point, Gina suddenly pointed at the distant clouds and said, "Mommy lives there." Luna felt a pang in her heart. William gently pulled Gina into his arms and whispered, "Mommy is watching Gina from the sky, and she wants Gina to be happy every day." Gina nodded and suddenly turned to Luna. "Can sister be Gina's new mommy?" The air froze instantly. Luna didn't know how to respond. William quickly stepped in to mediate to Gina. "Don't talk nonsense." "I'm not talking nonsense." Gina's little face turned bright red. I like sister. Sister likes Gina too, right? Luna looked at the little girl's stubborn expression and suddenly remembered Joy. She was the same way. Once she set her mind to something, she would stubbornly see it through to the end. Of course, big sister loves Gina, she said softly, but mom is one of a kind. No one can replace her. Gina nodded, half understanding, and leaned back into William's arms. On the way home, Gina fell asleep in the back seat. William was driving, occasionally glancing at Luna through the rearview mirror. Thank you for keeping her company today, he said softly. She hasn't been this happy in a long time. Luna shook her head. I enjoyed it too. Outside the car window, the setting sun dyed the clouds in a dazzling golden-red hue. Luna instinctively raised her hand to shield her eyes from the sunlight, her sleeve slipping down to reveal a scar on her wrist. William's gaze lingered on the scar for a second before quickly looking away, but for the rest of the journey, his brow remained slightly furrowed. A week later, William came to the bookstore alone, holding a thermos cup in his hand. This is calming tea I made myself. He handed the cup to Luna and said softly, maybe it'll help with your sleep a little. Luna paused for a moment, then asked blankly, how did you know I haven't been sleeping well? Though she had left that place behind, it seemed she had never truly forgotten those past events. Countless nights, she had woken from nightmares. William adjusted his glasses, his eyes behind the lenses gentle yet perceptive. You forgot I'm a doctor, didn't you, actually? You can turn to me for anything. I think we can consider each other good friends now, right? Luna instinctively pulled down her sleeve, covering her wrist. Sorry, I shouldn't have asked too much, William quickly said. It's just, as both a doctor and a friend, I hope you can take good care of yourself. Luna remained silent for a moment before finally smiling, her eyes curving as she said, I understand, thank you for the tea. If I ever truly need help in the future, I'll definitely turn to you. Don't worry. After that, William started visiting more frequently, sometimes with Gina, sometimes alone. Each time he came, he would bring small gifts, a bunch of wildflowers, a box of homemade cookies, or freshly brewed herbal tea for relaxation. Luna gradually grew accustomed to such companionship. Sometimes, watching William and Gina reading in the bookstore, she would feel as if this was the life she had always longed for, simple, peaceful, and full of warmth. On a rainy night, Luna was organizing the bookshelf when the doorbell suddenly rang. William stood outside, drenched from head to toe, holding a feverish Gina in his arms. Sorry to bother you so late, his voice trembled slightly. Gina kept insisting on seeing you. She said only your stories could help her fall asleep. Luna quickly ushered them inside. She took the burning hot Gina into her arms, and her heart ached at the sight of the child's flushed little face, gently patting her back. She said, Auntie is here. Gina, don't be afraid. That night, Luna stayed by Gina's bedside, softly telling her stories. William sat nearby, watching them with gentle eyes. When Gina finally fell asleep, the rain outside had stopped. Moonlight streamed through the gaps in the curtains, casting a silver band of light on the floor. Thank you, William whispered. Luna shook her head and was about to stand up when her legs, numb from sitting too long, nearly caused her to stumble and fall. William quickly reached out to steady her, and only when they both stood up did he realize they were standing a little too close. Both of them blushed silently, said nothing, and turned their heads away. Luna disappeared for a whole month before Tyler noticed something was wrong. He had initially thought Luna was just playing some hard-to-get games, but it wasn't until he realized he couldn't reach her no matter what that he began to take it somewhat seriously. But when he called her previous friends, they all said they hadn't seen Luna. Impatiently, he hung up the phone, turned around, and went to the study. He opened his computer and pulled up Luna's bank account information. The screen showed that the black card he had given her had always had a balance of 0. When she left, she took only her own savings and never touched the Walkers' money again. Humph, how principled, he sneered, turning off the computer. Wasn't she just trying to make them go back to her? Such childish tactics wouldn't have any effect at all. During breakfast the next morning, Luke and Joy chattered away about school. Judith gently served them food, occasionally looking up to give Tyler a sweet smile. The scene appeared harmonious and perfect, yet somehow, Tyler felt something was missing. Dad, there's a parent-child sports day at school next week. Can you and Judith Auntie come together? Joy asked, blinking her big eyes. Of course, Tyler answered instinctively, then paused. In the past, who usually accompanied you? Was it your mom? Both children simultaneously made faces of disgust. It's her, but we really don't want her to come. Luke pursed his lips, his little face expression cold. all she knows is staying at home doing laundry and cooking, never even willing to step outside. She doesn't bother dressing up either. We really don't want her here." "Exactly," Joy chimed in. "Aunt Judith always dresses so beautifully every time. All our classmates envy us." Judith smiled shyly and poured Tyler a cup of coffee. "Tyler, try it. I specifically had the maid brew it to your taste." Tyler took a sip, his brows involuntarily furrowing slightly. It was too sweet. In the past, his coffee was always Luna's hand-ground, never making such a mistake. She remembered he took his coffee without sugar, just a spoonful of milk. "What's wrong? Doesn't suit your taste?" Judith asked with concern. "It's nothing." He set down the cup and ultimately said nothing, merely adjusting his cuffs before stating, "I'm going to the office." In the days that followed, the Walker household appeared normal on the surface. Yet subtle changes were quietly taking place. Judith had never done household chores before, and after a few attempts, she simply left everything to the servants. Although everything in the household seemed to continue functioning smoothly, only Tyler and a few others keenly sensed that something had quietly changed. The home no longer had comfortable, soft, and personally ironed clothes. Those glasses of milk before bed and the carefully prepared dinners tailored to everyone's tastes in the morning had all disappeared. Although there were no major issues in daily life, the familiar warmth of home seemed to have vanished. Until that day, Tyler attended a business banquet and didn't return home until late at night. He staggered to the sofa and sat down, waving his hand to his assistant as he said, "There's nothing more for you to do here. Go back." After the door closed, the room immediately fell into silence. Tyler rubbed his temples wearily and called out instinctively, "Where is everyone?" The words slipped out before he suddenly realized that everything seemed different from usual when he returned today. There was no wall lamp left on for him, nor a steaming bowl of sobering soup on the coffee table. "Auntie Annie, didn't I mention I had a business dinner today? Why wasn't anything prepared at home?" He dialed the servants' quarters and asked in a deep voice. Before long, Auntie Annie hurried into the living room, flustered, saying, "Sorry, Mr. Tyler. Everything that was done for you when you returned at night was personally handled by the madam, which is why we forgot to prepare it for you. And the hangover soup you mentioned. The madam personally bought the ingredients and spent hours in the kitchen preparing it, never letting us help. If you'd like some, I can go and see how to make it now." Tyler's heart seemed to be struck by something, and in that instant, a strange emotion began to grow. It turns out all those things were prepared by her own hands. Little by little, he had known before that she cared deeply for this home, but never until this moment had the feeling of regret been so clear, even feeling somewhat indebted to her. Tyler stood in the center of the kitchen, the cold reflection of the marble countertop casting light on his gloomy face. Auntie Annie stood by with her hands hanging, not daring to make a sound. "So, for these 6 years, she's been quietly doing all this, but never mentioned it?" he asked hoarsely. Auntie Annie nodded cautiously and said, "Madam never let us interfere," she said. "She said your stomach is sensitive, and the hangover soup outside is too harsh. She had to personally watch the heat." Tyler's fingers unconsciously tapped on the countertop. For 6 whole years, no matter how late he returned from social engagements, there was always a bowl of warm hangover soup waiting on the dining table. It never occurred to him that it was Luna's effort. "Staying up late into the night, sir, shall I try to?" the butler tentatively asked. "No need." Tyler turned and walked toward the stairs. "Everyone, go get some rest." As he passed the master bedroom, he heard Judith's steady breathing inside. She turned over in her sleep, the silk bedding rustling faintly. Tyler stood at the door, and for some reason, suddenly thought of Luna, in the early days after their arranged marriage. He couldn't bear the sight of his so-called spouse and would constantly find excuses to stay out, often not returning home at night. Yet no matter when he came back, he would always find her waiting quietly for him in the living room. Luna was a light sleeper, easily awakened by the slightest sound. Sometimes when he returned late at night, he'd find her curled up asleep on the sofa, the TV still on with the volume turned down to a whisper. He didn't like her at all back then. And even if he saw her like this, he wouldn't spare her a second glance before heading into the house. Yet, she kept doing such things for many years, until one day, he finally stopped for her, even going so far as to tuck her in. When did all this begin to change? It seems it was after Judith returned, because he often went to Judith to handle various matters. Gradually, he came home less and less. Once, Judith expressed a desire to meet the 2 children, so he brought them along. It seemed that from that time on, their interactions with Judith became more frequent, and even most of their time was spent with Judith. Luna did raise objections. She angrily said, "You are my husband, Luke, and Joy are my own children. Yet why do you go comfort others every day?" She paused, seemingly unable to continue, her eyes brimming with tears. "With you all like this, I can't even tell who you consider as your wife, as your mother." But at that time, his heart was only with Judith, who had just returned from abroad. Hearing her accusations, he found her even more unreasonable. He coldly said, "Have you forgotten, if it weren't for your interference, Judith was supposed to be the lady of this house, wasn't she?" Luna froze in place, looking at him with indescribable disappointment in her eyes. At that moment, seeing the pain and disbelief in her gaze, he felt a slight stir in his heart. It was just that Judith was the one he truly loved. So without a second thought for Luna standing there, he turned and walked away. After that, Luna never brought it up again, as if that conversation had never happened. He felt quite satisfied, thinking she was quite sensible. With this thought, he inexplicably pushed open the door to the children's room. Luke and Joy were fast asleep, their little heads resting against each other. On the bedside table, a photo frame held a picture of them with Judith, all smiling brightly. Luna's photo had been taken down at some point. He gazed at the empty spot where Luna's photo used to hang. For some reason, he felt a hollow emptiness in his heart. He didn't return to the master bedroom, but instead went alone to the guest room. Outside the window, the cold moonlight streamed in. Tyler took a bottle of whiskey from the liquor cabinet and took a direct swig from it. The fiery liquid burned his throat, yet couldn't extinguish the inexplicable restlessness in his heart. After that day, Tyler often used business trips as an excuse and gradually stopped coming home. With him frequently away, Judith was all the more pleased to enjoy her freedom, spending her days either at the beauty salon or getting styled. Luke and Joy no longer had anyone to take them to and from school. Previously, Judith had often secretly excused them from class to take them out for fun, just to win their favor. The two children followed suit, skipping school altogether and spending their days hiding outside. Judith acknowledged it but didn't take it to heart. "Madam, the young master and young lady have been skipping classes frequently lately. The teacher has already called home, hoping you and the master could discipline the children more. The young master and young lady don't listen to us servants either. Could you perhaps return home and talk some sense into them, at the very least, persuade them to attend school?" "All right, I'm aware of the situation now, I'll handle it later." Judith lazily reclined on the beauty chair, admiring her freshly done nails. "There's no need to tell Tyler about this anymore. He's already busy enough with work, and I don't want to bother him further." The call ended, and her friend beside her teased, "Seriously, you're actually planning to take care of those two burdens? I mean, marrying a wealthy bachelor is great, but having to deal with these two little ones is just too annoying." "Who said I was going to interfere?" Judith lazily yawned, her eyes brimming with shrewdness. "I'd be more than happy to let them both rot, so they won't compete with my children for the family fortune." As she spoke, she made another phone call, this time to Luke Joy's homeroom teacher. "Teacher, our child has some family matters to attend to recently and won't be coming to school. Please don't trouble yourself too much about it. You're aware of our family situation. They don't need to focus too much on school. Also, the child's father has been very busy lately. If there's anything, you can just talk to me directly, no need to involve him." After hanging up the phone, she finally felt completely at ease and soon put the matter out of her mind. That evening, after finishing her beauty treatment, she unusually returned home. The living room was in complete chaos caused by the two children. Seeing her return, the two children joyfully rushed up and said, "Aunt Judith, you're finally back. We missed you so much." But to their surprise, the usually warm and smiling Judith now wore an extremely cold expression on her face. She impatiently brushed them off, saying, "Got it. I have other things to attend to. You two can play by yourselves for a while." Feng Han thought she would still be as accommodating toward him and his younger sister as before, so he angrily threw the toy to the ground. "No, Auntie, play with us." Little did he expect that, upon hearing his words, Judith's expression suddenly turned extremely terrifying. There wasn't a trace of warmth or kindness left in those eyes that had once been so gentle. "What did you say? Who do you think you're shouting at? Don't you know? I'll soon be marrying your father and becoming the new mistress of this household. Your father never liked your worthless mother to begin with, and soon enough, he'll grow to dislike you too." The two children were terrified, clinging tightly to each other, not even daring to breathe heavily. Where was the arrogance Luna had when bullying others before? "It's good that you understand. Remember, from now on, everything in this house must be done as I say. If you dare raise your voices at me again, don't blame me for being harsh." With that, she gave the children one last warning glance before coldly turning and walking upstairs. From then on, under Judith's instructions, the household servants gradually stopped taking the two children seriously. Not only was no one sent to take them to school, but over time, even 3 meals a day were no longer specially prepared for them. They could only Judith eat some leftover scraps after she finished her meal. The scorching summer sun baked the city of Walker family's villa air conditioner hummed noisily. Luke and Joy lay on the game room carpet building Legos, occasionally stealing glances at Judith, who was trying on lipstick in front of the dressing mirror. "Judith auntie," Joy spoke timidly, "can we go eat ice cream? You promised last week." Dad bought Judith some new jewelry again. Overjoyed, she kicked the two kids lying on the ground and said she'd take them out for ice cream later. Judith didn't even turn her head, answering impatiently, "Can't you see I'm busy?" But Luke mustered his courage and spoke timidly, "You said last week you'd take us." "How annoying." Judith turned around abruptly, leaving a glaring red streak of lipstick at the corner of her mouth. "All you ever do is eat. Look how fat you've become." The two children shrank back in fear. Ever since their mother left, they had never again felt Judith's care. The once gentle and kind smile was gone, replaced by a perpetual frown and sharp scolding. "Get back to your room," Judith snapped, wiping her mouth with a wet wipe and frowning. "Just seeing you annoys me." Joy's tears welled up in her eyes, but she dared not cry out loud. Last time she cried, Aunt Judith pinched her thigh and threatened to throw away all her favorite toys if she dared tell Dad. Today, Tyler unusually announced he would be staying home for the night. By the time he returned home in the evening, the two children were already asleep. Judith greeted him in a silk nightgown, her body exuding a faint perfume scent, her meticulously cared for skin appearing incredibly delicate. Finally done with work, decided to come home for once, she cooed softly, taking his briefcase from him. "There were some issues with the merger case recently, but I'll be able to come home more often now." Tyler loosened his tie, glanced around, and suddenly asked, "Where are the kids? Haven't seen them in so long." "They're already asleep. Don't worry, I've been taking good care of them." Judith smiled as she linked arms with him, pouting playfully. "Tyler, there's a charity banquet tomorrow, and I'm missing a matching necklace. Could you?" Tyler didn't even wait to hear the rest before absent-mindedly nodding and saying, "Go pick one yourself, just use my black card." The next morning at breakfast, he finally saw his two children come down to eat. However, what puzzled Tyler was that Luke and Joy were unusually silent. Upon closer inspection, the two children seemed to have lost some weight recently, their chins becoming more pointed. Tyler set down his coffee cup and frowned, asking, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" And no. Hearing his question, Luke immediately shook his head in a fluster, his hands trembling slightly, the spoon clinking against the bowl's edge with a crisp sound. Judith walked out of the kitchen holding a fruit platter, glanced over, and smiled gently, saying, "Tyler, don't worry, the kids are just fine." She bent down and affectionately ruffled Luke's hair, her tone incredibly gentle. "Right, Luke." Luke stiffened slightly and responded softly, "MMM." Tyler's phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID, stood up, and excused himself. "Something came up at the company. I have to go." After the door closed, Judith's smile vanished instantly. She snatched the milk glass from Joy's hand, her face showing impatience. "Drinking so slowly. Do you want to be late? Hurry up and eat. Your dad is back these few days. You better go to school properly and don't cause any trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." The threat was very effective. Joy shuddered in fear and quickly stuffed bread into her mouth, only to accidentally choke, her face turning bright red. "Useless thing," Judith scowled in disgust, not even bothering to glance over, and scolded angrily, "Absolutely spineless, just like your mother." In the office, Tyler was handling official business when his phone suddenly vibrated. It was a call from the butler. "Sir, the young master has a fever, 39.5 degrees Celsius. We're really worried something might happen." Tyler frowned and asked, "Have you called the doctor?" "We did, but Ms. Judith said there's no need to rush. She went out to attend a party." "What?" Tyler suddenly changed his expression, his voice tinged with surprise. "I'll come back right away. Have the family doctor check on him first." When he rushed home in the rain, he indeed saw Luke burning with fever, his little body still trembling uncontrollably. The family doctor was giving him an 4, looking grave. "How did it get this bad, Mr. Tyler?" the child's high fever has persisted for 4 hours, any later and it might develop into pneumonia. The doctor lowered his voice, speaking with grave concern. The child's constitution was weak to begin with. We should have started treatment earlier. Tyler felt a tightness in his chest, he remembered. Luna could always tell when the children were feeling slightly unwell. Often, she could accurately determine their fever temperature without even needing a thermometer. Judith. Why haven't I seen her all this time? The housekeeper hesitated before finally saying. And Miss Judith said. It's just a minor cold. She went to attend Mrs. Lee's birthday banquet. It was hard to decline. Tyler took out his phone and dialed Judith's number. It rang for a long time before being answered, with the background still filled with noisy laughter and music. Tyler, Judith's voice carried a tipsy cheerfulness, as if she hadn't given the matter a second thought. Luke has a high fever of nearly 40 degrees. Where are you? I'll be right back. Tyler had never been so harsh with her before, and Judith's voice immediately became flustered and aggrieved. I'm really sorry, Tyler, I thought it was just a common cold. I'm rushing back now. An hour later, Judith hurried back, still wearing the evening gown from the banquet, her face exquisitely beautiful, with reddened eyes. She threw herself in front of Tyler, pitifully saying, Tyler, I truly didn't know Luke was this seriously ill. Tyler looked at her delicate makeup and the lingering scent of alcohol on her, feeling a surge of irritation in his chest, but facing the face he once longed for day and night, his heart softened. Let it go this time, but be more careful next time. Late at night, Luke's fever finally subsided a little. Tyler's phone rang again, an urgent call from his assistant. Mr. Tyler, there's an emergency at the company that requires your immediate attention. Tyler glanced at his son sleeping soundly in the hospital bed and hesitated before saying, Judith, please look after him for now. I'll be back as soon as I handle this. Judith nodded obediently, her expression gentle as water. Don't worry. I'll take good care of Luke. Tyler hurriedly left, but upon reaching the hospital entrance and patting his pockets, he realized he had left his car keys in the ward. He turned back, and just as he reached the ward door, he heard Judith's shrill voice from inside. You little brat, stop pretending. You made me miss half the banquet. Luke's voice came weakly, choked with tears. I'm sorry, Judith, I didn't mean to. I'm warning you, don't play the victim in front of your father. Judith's voice was terrifyingly cold, showing no trace of sympathy. If you dare say anything out of line, you'll see what I'll do to you. I won't say anything, Luke sobbed. I'll be obedient. Please don't hit me, Humph. You'd better know your place, just like your wretched mother. Listening to all this outside the door, Tyler was utterly shaken. The pure and kind image of his once beloved person completely collapsed in an instant. The door was violently kicked open with a loud bang. Judith turned around in terror, meeting Tyler's furious gaze. Lynn, Tyler. Her face instantly turned deathly pale as she stammered in panic. Let me explain, but Tyler had already strode forward. Delivering a sharp slap across her face, Judith staggered back against the wall, her carefully styled bun coming undone. So this is how you act as a so-called good mother behind my back. If you dare to hit and threaten him today, who's to say you won't try to walk all over me tomorrow? Get out. Tyler's voice was as cold as ice. Today, you will take all your belongings and move out of the Walker household. Don't let me see you again. Judith covered her face, tears smearing her makeup, and pleaded urgently, Tyler, I was just too anxious. I truly love these two children. I will treat them well from now on. Love, Tyler sneered. Is your love nothing but beatings, curses, and threats? He turned to Luke on the hospital bed. The child had curled up in terror, his small face streaked with tears. Tyler's heart felt as if it were being twisted by a knife. How blind had he been to not realize what kind of fear the children were living in? Dad, Luke timidly reached out his hand, his eyes filled with fear. I was wrong. I'll listen to Auntie. Please don't abandon me. Tyler knelt on one knee by the hospital bed, tightly clutching his son's feverish little hand. No, it's Dad who was wrong. He turned to look at Judith, the disappointment and disgust in his eyes making her involuntarily take a step back. I never imagined you could be this kind of person. Judith still wanted to argue. Tyler had already pressed the call button. Security. Please escort this lady out immediately. When Judith's cries finally faded at the end of the hallway, Tyler wearily sat down by the hospital bed. Luke carefully tugged at his sleeve and sobbed pitifully. Daddy, I miss Mommy. Will you bring her back? Tyler felt a tightness in his throat. He remembered Luna's resolute figure as she walked away, and the coldness and hurt he had inflicted on her in the past. A dull ache rising in his chest. Daddy. Joy had woken up at some point too. Rubbing her eyes as she walked over. I miss Mommy too. When will Mommy come back? Tyler pulled both children into his arms, momentarily at a loss for words of comfort, only feeling an indescribable bitterness in his heart. 2 days later, Luke finally recovered and was discharged from the hospital. In the living room of the Walker family's house, many belongings of Judith were piled up. Meanwhile, Judith clutched Tyler's sleeve tightly in her high heels, her meticulously manicured nails nearly digging into his skin. Tyler, you can't do this to me. Her voice trembled with tears, her eyes filled with endless regret. We've known each other for 20 years, and you're really going to make a big deal out of such a trivial matter. Trivial matter. Tyler sharply shook off her hand, his gaze as cold as ice. Abusing my child is a trivial matter. He pulled out his phone and played a surveillance video. On the screen, Judith was viciously pinching Joy's thigh, causing the little girl to silently shed tears from the pain. And this, he swiped to another video, showing Judith pouring sleeping pills into the children's milk. I never imagined that just to make the kids sleep early so you could attend a party, you'd actually drug them. Judith's face instantly turned pale. You've been spying on me. Have you not trusted me for a long time? I'm watching over my home. Tyler's voice was low and dangerous. At that moment, a maid suddenly rushed out, trembling as she spoke. Sir, I have something to say. She pointed a shaking finger at Judith, her gaze filled with undisguised disgust. Ever since her first visit to our home, she's been sowing discord between the mistress and the children. You're lying, Judith shrieked. I did no such thing. The maid mustered her courage and said, she always buys the children all sorts of snacks and toys when the mistress is away, and even teaches them to speak ill of her. I heard her tell the young master with my own ears, your mother won't let you eat candy because she doesn't love you. She also said that only if the young master and young miss found a way to drive the madam away could they truly be together. So the very next day, the young master personally pushed the madam down the stairs. Tyler's expression grew increasingly grim. He turned to the butler and said in a low voice, pull up the surveillance footage from that day. When the video played on the large screen, the entire living room fell silent. In the scene, 2 children with malicious smiles on their faces pushed Luna down the stairs. Later, Judith, who followed Tyler inside, witnessed everything, unable to conceal the triumphant joy on her face. Daddy. Joy suddenly rushed down the stairs and threw herself into his arms, her voice trembling with tears as she said, we were wrong, we want Mommy back. Luke also followed behind, his little face streaked with tears. Judith said Mom doesn't want us anymore. Is it true? Judith sneered. Of course it's true. She already doesn't want you, and who knows which man's arms she's in right now. Tyler, you still don't know, do you? What you signed that day wasn't any property agreement at all. It was the divorce papers Luna personally handed you. You two have been completely unrelated for a long time now. You're the one who drove her away with your own hands. Slap. Another resounding slap cut short her venomous words. Tyler's hand remained suspended in midair, his eyes blazing with unprecedented fury. Throw out all her belongings, he ordered the butler. Not a single item I bought is to leave with her. Judith clutched her cheek, her eyes wide with disbelief as she exclaimed. Tyler, have you lost your mind? For that plain-faced woman? Shut up, Tyler snapped sharply, his face as cold as ice. One more word, and I'll make sure you can't survive in the capital. The servants quickly sprang into action, tossing Judith's suitcases one by one outside the main gate. Her designer bags, jewelry, and high-end cosmetics were scattered across the ground, looking like a messy pile of trash. You'll regret this, Judith screamed hysterically at the doorway. Do you think Luna would still want you? She's long been fed up with you. The door slammed shut in her face, cutting off all the vicious curses. The living room suddenly became terrifyingly quiet. Tyler slowly crouched down and pulled the 2 children into his arms. Their bodies were trembling, tears falling and dampening his suit. Daddy, did Mommy really abandon us? Joy sobbed and asked. Tyler's throat tightened. He remembered Luna's resolute figure as she left. Remembered the divorce papers he had personally signed, and a dull ache spread through his chest. No, she wouldn't, he murmured softly, more to convince himself, his brows deeply furrowed. Mom loved you both so much, she couldn't bear to leave you. Maybe she just went out to clear her mind. Then why hasn't she come back? Luke lifted his tearful eyes, his little face clouded with gloom. Was it because we pushed her down the stairs? Tyler couldn't bring himself to smile, only managing to wipe away his tears for him. Daddy will find Mommy. After the servants took the children upstairs, Tyler finally allowed himself to collapse onto the sofa, He pulled out his phone and dialed his assistant's number, saying in a low voice, "Find out where Luna is." Immediately, after hanging up the phone, Tyler's gaze fell on the family portrait above the fireplace. It was taken 3 years ago. Luna stood at the very edge, her smile so forced, but at that time, he hadn't even noticed Luna in his eyes, let alone her expression. Looking back now, perhaps it was because of his repeated neglect that she finally gave up on them. "Sir," the butler softly interrupted his thoughts, "dinner is ready. Shall I call the young master and young lady down?" Tyler nodded, his brow deeply furrowed. "I'll join them for dinner today." In the dining room, Luke and Joy listlessly picked at their food, none of their usual boisterousness remaining. Perhaps because they hadn't been properly cared for during this recent period. Two children who were once plump and radiant like pearls and jade now had chins so thin they were pointed. "Dad?" Joy suddenly asked in a small voice, with none of the willful arrogance of the past. "I miss Mom. Where did she go? Why hasn't she come back for so long? After you find Mom, will she still forgive us?" Tyler's hand paused, and for some reason, he couldn't give a definite answer. But when he thought of Luna's years of hard work and dedication for them, of her love for him and the children, he finally nodded firmly and said, "No matter what, she is your mother. She loved you the most before and will surely forgive you." In the dead of night, Tyler stood alone in the study, reviewing the surveillance footage from the past 6 months. In the footage, Luna was always quietly doing household chores, taking care of the children, waiting for him to come home. She rarely smiled. But whenever the children needed her, she would always be there in an instant, until that day, when the two children pushed her down the stairs, and he didn't even glance back at her. Tyler turned off the video, feeling a tightness in his chest. Once he finds Luna, he will treat her well. Tyler stood by the floor-to-ceiling window in the study, his knuckles rapping against the mahogany desk. The photos delivered by his assistant were scattered across the desk, each one stabbing into his eyes like a knife. "Is it confirmed to be her?" His voice was terrifyingly low. "Absolutely true." The assistant wiped the sweat from his temple. "Madam opened a bookstore. Business isn't bad. Here are the photos we took last week." In the photo, Luna stands at the entrance of a bookstore named Luna. Sunlight filters through the plain tree leaves, casting dappled shadows on her. She wears a simple linen dress, her hair slightly shorter than when she left. Bending down to speak to a little girl about 5 or 6 years old, there was a softness in his eyes and brows that he hadn't seen in a long time. The most glaring sight was the man standing beside her, tall and upright. The gentle gaze behind the gold-rimmed glasses rested softly on Luna. The man held the little girl in his arms, and the sight of the three standing together was so harmonious it was breathtaking. "Who is this man standing next to Madam?" Tyler pressed his thumb heavily over the photo, leaving a blurred mark on the man's face. "That seems to be Madam's senior from university, named William. The little girl with him is his late sister's child. They were only acquaintances in university. And this meeting was just a coincidence. However, the lady seems to really like that little girl. She often plays with her. And that William frequently accompanies them." Enough, no need to say more. Tyler raised his hand to stop the conversation, an unfamiliar bitterness surging in his chest. "Luna, how dare she? How dare she look at another man with that gaze, that tenderness?" That tenderness was meant for him alone. At that moment, the study door suddenly swung open. Joy and Luke ran in barefoot, their little faces still streaked with tears. "Dad," Joy threw herself onto his lap. "Auntie Annie said you found Mom. Is it true?" Tyler bent down to pick up his daughter, his gaze sweeping over the smiling eyes of Luna in the photo. 3 months have passed, and she hasn't contacted her child even once, yet she can smile so happily at someone else's child in a foreign land. "Shall we go find Mommy?" Luke tugged at his suit jacket hem. "We miss Mommy." The child's voice was like a blunt knife, slowly carving into his heart. Tyler looked at the three people happily together in the photo and suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Prepare the plane," he said to his assistant, gently wiping away the joy tear stains on her face. "We're going to bring Mom home." He absolutely refused to believe that Luna could genuinely like that doctor. This must be to provoke him. After all, she had once loved him so deeply, enduring 6 years of neglect for his sake, as long as he went to fetch her personally, bringing their 2 children. She would surely soften her heart. After all, Luna could never bear to make him or their child sad. Meanwhile, at the Mud Fun Pottery Studio, Luna was intently shaping a lump of clay. Little Gina was sprawled on the workbench beside her, her small face smudged with streaks of clay. "Luna, look at the bunny I made." The little girl proudly held up a lopsided creation, Luna leaned in for a closer look, then suddenly reached out and dabbed a bit of mud on Gina's nose. What a little bunny. Shouldn't a bunny have a round nose? Gina giggled and grabbed a handful of mud to retaliate. As the two tussled, William approached carrying 3 cups of hot tea, his glasses speckled with splashes of flying mud. You too, he shook his head helplessly, though unable to hide the smile at the corners of his mouth. Treating this place like a battlefield. Sunlight streamed through the skylight, spilling onto the table. William pulled out a handkerchief and naturally wiped away the mud spots on Luna's cheek. His fingers paused briefly upon touching her skin, realizing how close they were, causing the tips of his ears to flush slightly red. Gina watched the scene with a grin, suddenly put down the clay, and blinked her big eyes at Luna. Luna, I'm so happy. I wish I could stay with Uncle and you forever. Luna felt a stirring in her heart. She looked up and met William's gentle gaze behind his glasses. That gaze held a cautious expectation, making her heart tremble. But when she thought of Tyler and those 2 children, her gaze couldn't help but dim again, and she remained silent for a long time. Gina, William suddenly softly broke the silent atmosphere, pushing the little bowl he had shaped toward his niece with a smile, saying, "Take a look at this. Do you like it?" Gina's attention was indeed drawn to it. Forgetting the previous question, Luna lowered her head, her fingers unconsciously rubbing against the rough surface of the clay. A warmth rose in her chest, yet mingled with an indescribable ache. She knew William was giving her space, just as he had maintained that perfect distance for the past 3 months, never crossing the line. "I'll go change the water," she suddenly stood up and said, then hurriedly walked away. In the bathroom, Luna looked at her reflection in the mirror. 3 months had passed, the dark circles under her eyes had faded. Her lips were no longer tightly pursed, and the scars on her body had lightened considerably. The sunlight and breeze seemed to have gently smoothed over some of the invisible wounds on her as well. But when Gina said "always together," the faces that flashed before her eyes were Luke and Joy, those 2 children she carried for 10 months, yet who pushed her down the stairs. Can those past memories truly be completely forgotten? Tyler's private jet landed at the airport that very day. The sunlight was so glaringly intense that he squinted his eyes, watching as the 2 children were carried down by the bodyguards. "Daddy, will we really get to see Mommy?" Joy asked, tilting her little face upward, her eyes shimmering with both hope and unease. "Absolutely." Tyler adjusted his clothes, his voice steady and resolute. "Mommy will be so happy to see you." The assistant hurried over and handed over a document. "Mr. Tyler, we've confirmed Madam's location. She's currently at a pottery studio in the eastern part of the city, with those 2 people." Attached to the document was a secretly taken photo. Luna was squatting in front of a little girl, gently wiping clay stains off her face. Beside her stood a tall, bespectacled man, watching them with a smile. Sunlight streamed through the glass window, bathing the 3 of them in a warmth so tender it stung the eyes. Tyler's fingers tightened unconsciously, crumpling the edges of the photo. The way that man looked at Luna was all too familiar to him. It was a tenderness he had never shown her. "Prepare the car," he said coldly. "We're leaving now." Along the way, Luke and Joy were unusually quiet. They pressed their faces against the car window, watching the unfamiliar city scenery, their small hands nervously clutching the corners of their clothes. Tyler noticed that the 2 children had deliberately worn the clothes Luna bought them last year, though they were already a bit too small. "Dad," Luke suddenly asked in a whisper, his young face filled with extreme unease, "do you think Mom will forgive us?" Tyler didn't answer immediately. He recalled the pained expression on Luna's face when she was pushed down the stairs in the surveillance footage, and her resolute figure walking away. "She will." That was all he could say in the end, unsure whether he was lying to others or to himself. "Mommy loves you the most. How could I ever not want you?" The car stopped in front of a pottery studio called Mud Fun. Through the floor-to-ceiling window, Tyler spotted Luna at a glance. She was wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans, her hair casually tied back, completely focused on shaping a piece of clay. The sunlight gilded her profile with a golden edge, making her appear soft and radiant. The little girl named Gina suddenly grabbed a handful of mud and mischievously smeared it on Luna's face. To Tyler's surprise, Luna not only didn't get angry but instead laughed and threatened to smear it back. She laughed so joyfully, her whole being radiating happiness. It was a smile Tyler hadn't seen in a long time. "Mommy." The joy beside her suddenly broke free from the bodyguard's grip and dashed toward the pottery studio. Tyler couldn't stop her in time and had to quicken his pace to follow. As the door swung open, wind chimes tinkled crisply. Luna looked up at the sound, her smile freezing on her face. Joy. Her voice trembled slightly as her gaze traveled past the child and settled on Tyler. But the expression on her face wasn't happiness. Instead, it was resistance and indifference. Why are you here? How did you find me? Gina looked curiously at the strangers who had suddenly barged in. Instinctively hiding behind Luna, William stood up. Subtly positioning himself in front of the two. Luke also ran in and hugged Luna's leg tightly, his eyes brimming with tears. We missed you so much. Have you been with these two people all this time? Was it for them? His gaze at Gina was full of hostility, glaring at her with resentment, which frightened Gina into clutching Luna's sleeve tightly. Luna stood frozen in place, her hands hovering mid-air, unsure whether to return their embrace, upon seeing Luke's gaze. She suddenly snapped out of it, her eyes turning cold. She made no move to return the embrace, instead taking a slight step back. Her gaze shifted between the two children and William, finally settling on Tyler. What are you doing here? Her voice was soft, yet sharp as a knife. Tyler took a step forward, his gaze sweeping over William before finally settling on Luna's face. Luna, we're here to take you home this time. Stop this. The punishment you've given is enough. The children have realized their mistakes. Come back with us. The pottery studio suddenly fell into a terrifying silence. Other customers and staff stopped what they were doing, watching the scene with curiosity. Home, Luna sneered. Which home, Mom? Come back with us. Joy tugged at Luna's hand, her eyes no longer filled with the willfulness of before, but instead brimming with longing and pleading. We won't make you angry anymore. Yes, Mom, Luke quickly added. We chased Aunt Judith away. Dad said from now on, you're the only mom we'll have. Luna's expression changed as she crouched down to meet the children at eye level. I won't be going back with you, because not everything can be solved with an apology. Why? Joy's tears welled up. Doesn't Mom love us anymore? This question was like a blunt knife, stabbing deep into Luna's heart. She opened her mouth and asked with a bitter smile, pushing me down the stairs, framing me for feeding you mangoes. Weren't these things done by your own hands? Don't want me as your mother. Only want Judith to be your mom. Weren't these the exact words that came from your own mouths? I believe that while I may not necessarily be the most outstanding mother, I've always done my best to care for you and love you with all my heart. I don't understand why it's come to this in the end. The two children flushed red with shame, unable to speak, but Luke still refused to give up and pleaded once more. Mom. We were too immature before. I know I was wrong now. Please, can you forgive us? Luna hadn't even had a chance to speak when Gina suddenly spoke up timidly. Luna, her small hands tightly clutched Luna's sleeve, her beautiful big eyes filled with tears. Are you leaving? William bent down to pick up his niece, comforting her softly. Gina, don't be afraid, your sister won't abandon you. No matter where she chooses to go, we must respect her decision, and even if sister isn't here, I'll still come often to play with Gina. Tyler watched this scene, an inexplicable fury burning in his chest. What right did this stranger have to use such intimate terms of address? What right did he have to stand holding the child beside Luna, as if they were the real family? Luna, he stepped forward, his voice low. Stop being willful. The children need you. As a mother, do you really not want to raise your own flesh and blood, but instead care for someone else's child? I'm being willful. They need me. Luna stood up, her eyes flashing with a Tyler had never seen before. Did they need me when they pushed me down the stairs? When they say they hate me in front of everyone? Do they still need me when they call Judith Mom? Do they still need me? Each accusation felt like a slap, leaving Tyler speechless. The two children cried even harder, clutching Luna's clothes desperately. We were wrong, the Mom, Joy sobbed uncontrollably. We'll only love you from now on. We'll never hurt you again. Luna's eyes reddened, but her resolve never wavered. William silently handed over a tissue, but this small gesture completely enraged Tyler. Who do you think you are? He demanded coldly. What right do you have to interfere in our family matters? William calmly adjusted his glasses and said in a steady voice, I am Luna's friend. As for qualifications, he glanced at the two children who were crying their eyes out. I think those who hurt her have no right to ask me that question. Tyler's fists clenched audibly. Just as the tension reached its peak, Gina suddenly whispered, Luna, we haven't finished making the bowls yet. As these words were spoken, Luna finally made up her mind. Taking a deep breath, she turned to Tyler and said, Please take the children and leave. I'll say it again, there's nothing left to discuss between us. Mommy, both children screamed simultaneously, clinging desperately to her legs. Please, don't leave us. The scene descended into immediate chaos. The pottery studio owner hesitated about whether to call the police. While other customers took out their phones to film, Luna stood at the eye of the storm. Her face as pale as paper. Tyler looked at her trembling hands and suddenly realized he had made a fatal mistake. He thought bringing the child along would move her, but forgot to consider her feelings. The harm done cannot be erased with a mere apology, just like shattered porcelain. No matter how carefully repaired, the cracks will always remain. Luke, Joy, he struggled to speak. Let's go home first. No, Luke cried stubbornly, clutching Luna's clothes tightly. Refusing to let go. We want Mommy. You said you'd bring her home with us today. You said it yourself. Luna closed her eyes, tears silently streaming down. William silently handed over Gina's small hand. And the little girl immediately grasped Luna's fingers tightly, as if this could give her strength. Tyler, Luna spoke with determination, her voice as cold as ice, without a trace of hesitation left. Take them away, I've already said it. I can't forgive the things you did in the past. If you're here to talk about their child support, I can transfer the money without hesitation. As for anything else, don't bring it up with me again if you come here again. I won't hesitate to call the police. These words hit like a sledgehammer, completely shattering Tyler's confidence. He had thought Luna would soften, that she would come back with him for the sake of the children. But I never expected her determination to leave would be so resolute. He bent down and forcibly picked up both children. Ignoring their cries and struggles, striding toward the door. Before pushing the door open to leave, he took one last glance back. Luna was crouched on the ground comforting Gina. William stood beside them. The figures of the three people looked so intimate, so happy. Inside the pottery studio, everything had quieted down. Luna mechanically kneaded the clay in her hands, her knuckles turning white from the force. Gina sat quietly beside her, occasionally glancing at her with concern. Luna. The little girl finally couldn't help but speak up, her eyes sparkling with worry. Are you very sad, sister? You look so unhappy. Luna paused her hands, forcing a smile. No, Gina, don't worry about me. Keep working on your little bowl. William silently handed over a cup of warm water, gently placing it beside Luna as he said, would you like to take a break? She shook her head, her gaze falling on the half-formed clay bowl in her hands. Its shape was crooked, just like her current mood. Just now, Luke and Joy's tear-reddened eyes kept flashing through her mind, making her chest feel tight. They look thinner, she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. William did not respond, simply standing quietly by her side. Sunlight streamed through the glass window onto the workbench, Gina's small bowl glowing softly in the light. Uncle. Little Gina paused thoughtfully before suddenly suggesting, let's make a gift for Luna. William gently ruffled his niece's hair and said softly, sure, Gina, what would you like to make? Let's make a little house. Gina exclaimed excitedly. This way, Luna will have a new home. This innocent child's remark made Luna feel a lump in her throat. As she watched the little girl earnestly molding clay and William focusing on guiding her, she suddenly realized, without even realizing it, these two people had become an important part of her life. Gina, she asked softly, why do you want to build a house for me? The little girl looked up, her large eyes crystal clear. Because Luna is unhappy, Uncle said home should be a happy place, and I want to make sister happy again. Luna's eyes reddened once more. William adjusted his glasses awkwardly, his ears turning slightly red. Kids say the darndest things. Luna, don't be upset. Thank you all, Luna suddenly said, her voice slightly choked, but soon smiled through tears. Meeting you all makes me very happy. Gina immediately threw herself into her arms, her small hands tightly hugging her neck. Sister, can we stay together forever, just like a family? William's hand froze mid-air, the clay slipping through his fingers. His gaze met Luna's, and both flushed simultaneously. Gina, he chided softly, saying that will put pressure on sister. It's okay. Luna gave a soft laugh, gently stroking the little girl's hair, her gaze towards William tender yet resolute. I'm honored to be a part of your lives. The two pairs of eyes before her instantly brightened. Like two pairs of dazzling stars, Luna looked at the two figures, one tall and one small, before her and couldn't help but laugh, the dull ache in her chest gradually replaced by a new emotion. It was a sense of security she hadn't felt in a long time. There have been many rainy days recently, and even the business at Luna Bookstore has slowed down considerably. However, for many days in a row, a Maybach has been parked at the entrance, persistently waiting at the door, never leaving. Luna, look at the drawing I made. Gina held up a crayon drawing, skipping over excitedly. but suddenly stopped when she saw her expression. "Sister," Gina asked cautiously, "are you unhappy again?" Luna forced a smile and didn't answer. Instead, she took the drawing and said, "It's so well drawn. Is this a little rabbit, MHM?" Gina nodded vigorously, then turned her small hand to point outside the window. "Is it because those bad people came again that sister is sad?" William emerged from behind the bookshelf, holding a cup of steaming floral tea. He unobtrusively positioned himself in front of the window, blocking the view from across the street. "Should we call the police?" he asked softly, his gaze shifting to the luxury car that had been parked there for a week. Through the rain, faint outlines of two small figures could be seen pressed against the car window. Staring longingly toward the bookstore, Luna shook her head and said coldly, "They'll give up eventually." The sound of rain grew louder when suddenly, the car door across the street swung open violently. Joy was holding a black umbrella that was too large for her. Stumbling as she rushed toward the bookstore, the rain soaked her skirt and little leather shoes, but she paid no heed, stubbornly pounding on the tightly shut shop door. "Mom, please open the door." The childish voice pierced through the rain, pleading tearfully, "I know you're in there, Mom, you saw us. Why are you ignoring me and my brother? Do you really not want us anymore?" Luna clutched the curtains with white-knuckled fingers. William silently stepped beside her, his warm palm gently covering her trembling hand. "This is the last time," Luna suddenly said, her gaze growing determined. "This time, I'll go settle things with them." With that, she took out her phone, found the long blocked number, and sent a message. In the cafe, Luna chose a seat by the window, quietly waiting for the arrival of those three. Before long, Tyler walked in with the two children. He was unusually not wearing a suit today, with a simple white shirt crumpled against his body and obvious dark circles under his eyes. The two children were also pitifully dressed in dirty clothes, looking noticeably thinner and utterly disheveled. "Mom," Joy rushed toward her as soon as he saw her, but she gently dodged just as he was about to reach her. "Have a seat." Luna pointed to the chair opposite, her voice eerily calm. Tyler swallowed hard, speaking with difficulty. "Luna, the children have been having a very hard time these days. They were already in poor health, and now without their mother's care." "I know," she interrupted him, pulling a brown paper bag from her purse. "This is the growth diary I made for them before, from birth until now. Everything you need to pay attention to when taking care of them is in here. There's also the allergy list and medication records. They're not little kids anymore, and I believe you can take good care of them." Tyler's face instantly turned deathly pale as he trembled, saying, "What do you mean by this? I don't want any of these." "Luna, don't you understand? We just want you to come back." Luna didn't look at him. Instead, she lowered her head with a bitter smile, slowly rolling up her left sleeve to reveal a hideous scar. "Remember this? It was from the shattered glass when Luke pushed me down the stairs that night. I went to the hospital and got a full 12 stitches, while at that time, you and Judith were at home enjoying each other's company." A picture of maternal kindness and filial piety. Luke's face instantly lost all color as he stared in horror at the scar, his lips trembling. "Mom, I didn't mean to." Luna gently shook her head and lifted her skirt again, revealing the terrifying scar on her leg. The scar stretched across her leg like a giant centipede, almost as if a chunk of flesh had been gouged out. "That was the time when I was trapped in the elevator with Judith, and you said she still had to dance. So you didn't hesitate to abandon me, almost, just a little more, and I might have lost this leg. Each one of you says you didn't mean it." Luna's voice was soft, yet sharp as a knife. "Just like how you deliberately accused me of feeding you mangoes and intentionally told everyone you hated me." Her gaze turned to Tyler, with undisguised sarcasm. "What about me? Should the harm I've suffered just be ignored because of your casual "we didn't mean to"? Joy suddenly burst into tears, rushing forward to hug her arm. "But we know we were wrong now, Mom. Please come back. We'll never do that again." Luna looked at her daughter, who was crying her heart out, yet felt an unexpected calmness within, no longer stirred by the familiar pang of pain. She simply sat quietly, waiting for the sobs to gradually subside. She began slowly, each word seeming to be squeezed out from her chest, unbearably difficult. "I once truly loved you both very much. Joy was only 2 kilograms when born prematurely, and I stayed by the incubator for 7 days and nights. Luke was bullied by classmates and afraid to go to school, so I accompanied him to the classroom door every day. I kept each of your birthdays in my heart, making cakes for you with my own hands. But love can be exhausted. When you pushed me down the stairs, said you never wanted to see me again, and chose Judith as your mother, all the affection we shared was over. I came today to tell you. Luna stood up, placing the coffee money under the cup, and said word by word, I won't be going back. This isn't to punish you, but simply because I've already started a brand new life for myself. I don't want to sink back into the quagmire of the past and have meaningless entanglements with you anymore. She turned and walked out without hesitation. Joy's heart-wrenching sobs rose behind her, yet her steps didn't falter for a second. Please, don't abandon us. Luna pushed open the cafe door. Across the street, William was holding Gina's hand while waiting by the car. The little girl, upon seeing her, immediately broke free from her uncle's hand and ran over. Luna, Gina threw herself into her arms, her small hands nervously touching her face. Are you okay? Did they bully you? Luna bent down to pick up the little girl and kissed her soft cheek. It's okay, sis, let's go home. William walked over without asking anything. Simply placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, the three figures walking toward the car looked so harmonious in the sunlight. Inside the cafe, Joy's sobs gradually quieted. Tyler stared blankly out the window, watching Luna get into that unfamiliar car. He saw the little girl nestle affectionately in her arms, while the bespectacled man gently fastened her seatbelt. Dad, Luke tugged at his sleeve, his voice trembling with unprecedented fear. Is Mom really not coming back to us? Tyler remained silent. The certainty he'd felt before coming here had now completely vanished. This time, it seems they've truly lost Luna completely. Luna stood on the terrace, watching Gina watering the flower beds in the courtyard. The little girl, dressed in a soft yellow dress, hummed a tuneless nursery rhyme as she skipped about, looking utterly delighted. What are you thinking about? A pair of warm hands encircled her from behind, William's chin resting lightly on her shoulder. He still carried the scent of hospital disinfectant on him, clearly having just returned from work. I was thinking, Luna couldn't help but smile before even turning around, about how you brought Gina to buy picture books when we first met. William chuckled softly, his eyes behind the gold-rimmed glasses brimming with tenderness. Back then I thought, how come this junior schoolmate still looks so pretty after all this time? You're such a smooth talker. Luna lightly punched his shoulder. Laughing uncontrollably, their laughter startled Gina in the yard. The little girl dropped her watering can and flew upstairs like a butterfly. Uncle, Luna, what secrets are you whispering about? William bent down to pick up his niece and planted a kiss on her little face smudged with dirt. Uncle is asking Luna if she'd like to stay with us forever. Gina's eyes instantly lit up, her small hand tightly clutching Luna's sleeve. Really? Luna will stay with us always. Luna's heart softened as if soaked in warm water. She took Gina and nodded under the little girl's expectant gaze. If Gina is willing, I do, Gina cheered, wrapping her arms around her neck, then turned to look at William. Uncle, quickly put the ring on Luna, just like they do on TV. William's ears turned slightly red as he pulled out a small red velvet box from his pocket and knelt down on one knee. Luna, his voice trembled slightly, will you? I do. Before he could finish asking, Luna firmly gave her answer, tears in her eyes but with a happy curve at the corners of her mouth. Their wedding was scheduled for 3 months later. On the wedding day, the sunlight was surprisingly beautiful. Luna wore a simple white wedding dress, holding a bouquet of wildflowers picked by Gina, as she walked toward William amidst the blessings of the crowd, when the pastor declared them officially husband and wife. Gina couldn't wait to throw herself into Luna's arms, calling out Auntie in a clear, cheerful voice. Behind the crowd of guests stood 3 lonely figures, one tall and 2 small. I'll handle it. William squeezed her hand gently, offering reassurance in a soft voice. No, I'll go myself. Luna took a deep breath, lifting her skirt as she walked toward the door. As soon as the door opened, Joy rushed forward and exclaimed, Mom, you look so beautiful today. Luna took a step back, avoiding her embrace, and said coldly, what are you doing here? Tyler's gaze fell on the wedding scene behind her, his voice hoarse, his eyes filled with nostalgia and reluctance. We mean no harm, we just wanted to wish you well. Not needed. Luna's voice was calm. Please leave. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried undeniable weight. Tyler's face instantly turned pale. He reached out to pull the 2 crying children closer, his gaze filled with despair. Luke, Joy, let's go. No. Joy broke free from her father's grip, rushed forward and clung to Luna's leg, crying hysterically, Mom, please look at me, look at me. Luna looked down at the daughter she once cherished in her hands. She didn't bend down, just gently pushed away those small hands. Goodbye, Joy, and Luke, don't come looking for me again. Live your new lives. I'm going to have a brand new life of my own too. As she turned away, she heard Tyler choking back sobs behind her, along with the children's heart-wrenching cries. But when she walked back to the wedding venue and saw Gina running toward her with a little flower basket, William smiling at her in the sunlight, the voices became distant and indistinct. Later, Luna heard from the old butler that the Walker family was not doing well. After Judith was driven away, the household fell into chaos. Tyler was preoccupied with work, and the two children, boarding at school, grew increasingly unruly. They once tried to come looking for her again, but were stopped by security outside the residential area. Sometimes, Luna would dream of the past. She dreamed of Luke's high fever when she stayed up all night watching over him. Dreamed of the smiling faces of the two children when they called her mom for the first time. When she woke up, William would always notice immediately, pulling her into his arms to comfort her softly. "Luna, do you ever regret it?" he once hesitantly asked. Luna looked at the two stray cats playing in the yard with Gina, shook her head, and said, "Life is so happy now, the future is bright, I won't look back." Just then, Gina ran over holding the two kittens, her face smudged with grass, and asked joyfully, "Auntie, they're so adorable. Can we adopt them?" "Of course we can," she said with a smile, tenderly stroking Gina's sweaty little face. "This is our home, you call the shots." Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the three figures. The shadows that once shrouded her will never affect her again.